What I have for tonight's unbox is actually also tonight's game. I happen to have one complete in the box, and then I have another one that I had to procure by borrowing it, and so we have two to go through tonight, and I'll explain that, you know, in later detail whenever we get into playing the actual game. But what I have to unbox, you guys may have seen something like this before. It is the world famous, not world famous, the world infamous Power Player Super Joy 3, ladies and gentlemen, except no substitutes. This bad boy right here can hold so many pirated bootleg Famicom games, and by that I mean it can hold about 48 of them, I think, by my count. This is a slightly newer model, but some of y'all that are even familiar with bootleg Nintendo systems in passing, you've seen this. You've seen this before. You know what this is. You've seen one. You might know someone who owns one. Hell, you might even own one. So this is legendary, and I bought this complete in its original packaging so that I could do an unbox and then we could play it. And when I tested it out, I realized I needed to procure a second one because the game selection on this is not as good as I remembered the one that I used to, that Reflex owns, my brother. So I had to basically convince him to dig through all of his shit in storage, which I helped with, and he went and got his. So we'll take a look at two different models of this on this side. It's two unboxes for the price of one, except only one has the box. So what we got here, as you can see, it is a Nintendo 64 controller called if we get close to it, Super Joystick TV game. That just is printed in such a weird color that it doesn't want to focus. Super Joystick TV game, the Super Joy, aka the Super Joy 3. Funny they mention that. This is not a functional D-pad. It's not a joystick. It's not a thing that's mounted on top of a shittier D-pad. Like, this is purely for decoration. If you are too rough with it, it will break off. This is one of those rare Nintendo controllers you hold from the sides. The games are all played that way. You don't use the analog stick because none of these games there was no analog back then. So we got this. We got, of course, your D-pad, and this. At first, when I looked at this, I was like, well, this is clearly some type of mold stolen from an N64 controller. And the more I look at it, the more it pisses me off, because I'm like, these buttons don't line up right, and these C buttons are like drifting off to the right, and none of them line up with any of the other ones, right? And that's stupid. This is Player One's controller. No, you guys are right. No select. Actually, Smoker Mega Drive, this is one of the few Famiclones that has a select button. What used to be A is start and B is select. And then all the C buttons is like, this is A, this is B, this is Turbo A, this is Turbo B. This is Player One's controller. Player 2 gets, for some fucking reason, a Sega Genesis controller with A, B, and C. Which, of course, you have A and B, Turbo A, Turbo B, Turbo A, Turbo B. That, that's the way it works. And then you get this fabulous-looking gun. Like a actual... It functions like a zapper, but it looks like a Glock or something. I don't know. It looks more like a gun than the zapper does. Basically, you wouldn't want to be walking around holding this. The only thing that would give it away is the fact that there's a cord hanging out of the bottom of it. But other than that, you'd probably still get shot. As you can see here, this surrounds a scene from Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is not a game. It's not a game that's included on the Power Player. I'm sorry to inform you guys that we're not gonna fight Darth Maul. We're not gonna get to play as Obi-Wan. There's no now this is pod racing. Jar Jar Binks is not gonna make an appearance tonight. I'm about out of Star Wars Episode 1 references, so I'm gonna end them there. It also says up here, it proudly proclaims 76,001. Yeah, there weren't that many games released for the NES. I mean, if you count things that were only on the Famicom, maybe you're at like 1,200 if you count them all. So that's a lie. What I like here, though, is that this is the original new edition. It's original. It's original, and it's new at the same time. Make up your fucking minds. the original new edition, you guys. And then down here, they're really driving it home. Super joystick. Nothing. Maybe they're referring to this, which we'll get to in a second. But there's no joystick. You look on the sides of the package. Again, it just says Super Joystick and Power Gun. The original new edition in a slightly different color. You flip it around on the side. Same thing, except apparently it also comes in black and blue, of which I could not find any. I looked. Trust me, I looked, because every single one of these that I've seen in person has been this nasty, like, off-white color, and I don't like it, but that's the best I can do. It's the best I can do. If you look on the back, though, there's a red one. They didn't even mention that. The choices are black, gray, and blue, and then on the back they've got a red one and a green gun. I've never seen a green gun. It looks like we got in the top left we got my favorite game, which is Land Rover commercial, and the other ones just appear to be like generic. Like the top right looks like Air-Sea Battle, like the cover art from the Atari 2600. I don't know what's going on the bottom left. It looks like some type of spaceship about to hit an asteroid, and then on the right it's like fighter planes from World War II. But I gotta point something out here. You know, Ashens always talks about the sad onion. You gotta be 13 years or older to play this thing. If you're 12 or under, COPPA compliance. You can't touch this. Get the hell out of here. You can't touch this. Literally. Thanks, Hammer. So I'm gonna get this out of the pack. All right, so here it is. Oh man, look at that! What a beauty. So here's something that I'm not going to convey to you over the medium of video. But there is a very, very powerful smell coming from this. Like, it basically smells like a factory. It smells like a chemical plant. All of this does. This all smells like petroleum manufacturing byproducts. It sounds like this smells like something that somebody found in the backyard of one of the residents of like Love Canal, and they were like, oh hey, it's a video game system. That's cool. This does not smell pleasant at all. It smells like plasticizers and special super Chinese styrofoam. It's not even Smoker Mega Drive, that good old toxic bootleg smell. Yeah, this smells like super cancer is basically what I'm trying to get at. So we got the piece de resistance right here, and I'm getting styrofoam on me. We've got the power player, the Super Joy. And like I said, this is not a thing. This doesn't do anything. But I'm also not going to break this off for the sake of making a punchline, because this is mine. It goes in my collection of crap. I know it's not worth a whole lot of money, but I'm not going to break it off intentionally. Crappy little squishy D-pad that you can push the whole thing down like a button. You got your reset button where the start should be. You got start, select where A and B should be, and then, like I said earlier, you got your A and B buttons that are these grossly, horrifyingly set apart C buttons. And this doesn't feel, I'm instinctively holding it like this, but really it's like this. This doesn't feel pleasant to hold at all. And then if you look on top, it gets even worse. You've got your video and mono audio output. I have tried to anticipate this ahead of time for tonight's stream. I have a thing that takes mono output and just flattens it and makes it faux stereo by just outputting this sound channel to both sound channels, so hopefully that works. I don't know. You have your input here for your gun, and if we flip it over here, a 2-number joystick. And then over here, you got your DCN. It only runs on AC adapter. Other model I have, we'll take a closer look at that. And then you have your on-off. You might be wondering, Draco, doesn't an N64 controller have a Z button? Well, what has the Z button on this controller been mapped to? I say that's a great question. The Z button on this controller has been mapped to 60-pin connector. So just sticking out the back of this thing is a slot where you can put Famicom cartridges. And yes, I do have some that we can test with. I'll show you guys those briefly in a moment here. But there is no Z button. It's just a big slot where you can stick a cartridge there, and then you can imagine the hell that is trying to hold this with something put in this slot. It's also just like bare chips and electronics that are exposed here. Every time I touch this, I feel like it's going to shock me while it's on, even though I know that's not how circuitry works. But yeah, it just frightens me. So this is the primary unit. This is where all the games are. This is where you plug in the power. This is where the video is. This is your on and off switch. This is, for some reason, you plug in player 2 into the back right here. You know, that's the way it goes. We get to address the situation of player 2's controller, which is a Sega Genesis controller. But again, I thought they had copied the molds for these things, but if they did that, the buttons wouldn't be as fucked up as they are, and this is not what a 6-button Genesis controller looks like. So we've got this in a place for copyright information that is suspiciously blank. No Famicom slots on the back of this one, so that's a plus. That's, I mean, mark 1 for the Power Joy. You have your A button, your B button, your Turbo A, your Turbo B, your Turbo A, your Turbo B, and then a D-pad that just feels like absolute shit. This is the one that has the start button and no select. But then again, if it's player 2, I don't think they need a select button, but I don't see any reason for them not to have one. And as Daemonic Void pointed out earlier, it looks like you can screw something down. So there is a little joystick nipple that you can screw into this, and it turns it into the worst, absolute the worst joystick. It's just not even. It feels like shit. Actually, it fucking broke. It just. How does this go back together? Okay, so it's just a piece of shit. It's just, in fact, my manhandling of it, I think it split the plastic. So in order to fix this, I'm going to have to glue it back together. It's very hard to see, but you can see these little cracks formed just from me. I wasn't even playing a game. I was pretending to play a game and commenting about how this was the crappiest thing on the planet. And it just broke. It just broke. And then, finally, we get down to brass tacks here. We get down to the zapper, okay? It's got a satisfying little click there, except it doesn't. It feels very squishy and gummy. But they did paint the tip of it orange. So, you know, you can't... take that. So if you point this at somebody, they're going to know you're fucking with them. So it comes with a crappy little gun that feels very cheap. As you can see, I haven't really messed with it any. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to determine if this works, although I can say from previous experience, yes, this fake zapper does work. It is what it is. The reason why we're not going to be able to test it out is because these only work with CRT-style television sets. Now, there are special adapters that you can buy for the NES that will allow the original zapper to work on an HD TV, but it doesn't work on shitty Chinese bootleg consoles that smell like cancerous chemicals. So, unfortunately, we're gonna have to, you know, we can't test like Duck Hunt and Hogan's Alley and crap like that. So you'll have to take my word for it. It's just a piece of shit. Only 2 things left in the box. You get your crappy video and singular audio channel cable, which is a piece of crap. And then we have the AC adapter, which is packaged like this. This is how it came packaged. I didn't store it like this. They just rolled it up. And I would like to point out, this is a pretty fair example, you can kind of see some of the wiring here is very shiny. Like it's been reacting with the styrofoam and melting it. Because parts of everything in here, especially the wires, like if I pull this back out, you could see this weird shimmer it has, where I think whatever the plasticizers on the rubber coating the wires are is reacting with the styrofoam, and it's causing it to melt. So none of this feels safe to handle, to touch, to smell. In fact, you guys are gonna think I'm bullshitting you on this. But now that I've had this open for several minutes and we've been looking at it, my face is starting to sting. Like, specifically my eyes. My eyes are starting to sting. So whatever fumes this is giving off are not good if it's making my face literally burn. So, we're probably not going to be looking at this one for too much longer. But there is one thing I would like to point out. I don't know if this is gonna translate well to the microphone, but this is the AC adapter I have in my hand. I don't know if that's translating too well, but if I shake it hard enough, you can hear parts inside moving. I feel like if I plug this in, it's gonna blow the house up. It's gonna start a fire. Like, it doesn't. None of this. Oh, you can't hear the rattling. Okay, good. This is a model. It's a newer model. I believe this one was manufactured around 2018. There's no year of manufacture on any of these things, but this is a newer model. They still make these. So, a brief history about this in the middle of it, because I have another one to look at real quick. When these were released around the turn of the millennium, after a few years into the 2000s, Nintendo got fucking pissed. Like, big time. And they decided to crack down on this, and for some reason, they targeted one guy who was selling these in a kiosk in the Mall of America. And they basically took that sad sap to the cleaners. Like, the FBI raided the warehouse of his supplier, and they arrested him, and I think he served 5 years in prison and had to pay reconstitutions to Nintendo, and the guy had to buy, out of his own pocket, like full-page ads in gaming magazines at the time, announcing that he was a criminal and that he was selling bootleg pirate merchandise. Basically, Nintendo made an example out of this poor motherfucker, saying, if it can happen to him, it can happen to you. We're watching. And then I don't think they ever went after anybody as savagely as that again. So, I'm not saying I feel bad for the guy. I mean, definitely the dude was breaking the law, but I'm like, God damn, Nintendo. Every once in a while, they do something like that, where you're just like, fuck you. Like, did you really have to show up at this guy's doorstep and fire a tank round through his fucking door, metaphorically speaking? The same thing like when Nintendo took down that emulation website and sued the people who hosted for like literally millions of dollars. It's like, you think that doesn't count? You think who owns the rights to Chubby Cherub on the NES? You think they give a fuck that their game is being downloaded? No, nobody does. Nobody does. The people that might as well be abandonware. That game sucks anyways. Nobody gives a shit. And Super Mario Brothers is a great game, but it's not $21 million great, or however much that was. But that's just... that's the big N for you. So that's one Super Joy. And then in here, I don't have the box for this one. But in here, I have a Super Joy from the era. I have a Super Joy that could have been the exact same model that dude from the Mall of Americas was selling that got him basically raided and arrested. We bought this one at like an open-air flea market a long time ago somewhere in Texas, whereas the other one I have that smells like cancer, I just bought that from a retailer online. Like, people still sell them. And Nintendo, it didn't work, okay? I can still go out and I can buy those. I don't even have to go to AliExpress. People sell them on fucking eBay, and they buy Facebook ads, and they sell them there. In fact, the same open-air market I got this one from, I can still buy that one. Except I'm not going to spend $70 at the open-air market. I'm going to just get it on eBay for, $25 or whatever, which is what I did. So, anyways, inside here is the original, first-gen Super Joy. And you're going to basically find out pretty quickly that it kind of looks the same. Once again, this doesn't do anything. This is not a functional analog stick. The reset button's still here, the start button's still here, select is still here. The start button's a little bit worse for wear because this one has actually been played and used quite a bit. The C buttons are still weird and off-centered and not working. And then you got your D-pad here. So yeah, you might be looking at this and wondering when I let a dinosaur touch this thing. I didn't. Actually, the way this was stored is that the wires were wrapped around it for so long that they melted into the plastic. So even back then, whatever they were making the wires out of, still volatile. Still eating into the literal plastic of the system itself. So that's true Chinese quality. Anyways, if you look on the top, it really is the same thing. You got your audio, video, again, mono out. You have your AC adapter plug here, and you have your on-off switch. Although, strangely, this has a place for a RF connector, and I believe that is S-Video, or at least the Sega Genesis RF out. But that's RF, so that's not audio-video, so I don't have a device on hand I could test this with, or a TV that would accept that type of input. This one's missing from the newer model, but down here you still have the gun and 2-number joystick down here, so there is that. Also, this one does have a 60-pin connector in lieu of a Z button, so overall we're looking at the same thing here, but you're probably noticing this and saying, Draco, does that have expandable memory? What is this? What is this? Well, if you actually pop this out, this is cool, watch. The little memory card thing that pops out is actually a battery pack, which I find to be really neat. So you don't have to plug this into the wall to play it. I'm going to because I've got the AC adapter for it. But this is the old model that you could actually put, I believe, AA or AAA batteries in here, AA's, and you put them in there, and it forms a little thing here, and it even says, insert the battery box in the right place, which basically means don't shove it up your ass. And it's even molded in such a way so that you can only fit it in one way, and it just clicks in there, and if you put batteries in it and then you turn it on, it will turn on just like that, which I think is really cool. Plus it's got the spring-loaded thing, so you can shoot the cartridge out and probably break it. So there is that. If we go in here, I mean, it's going to look awfully familiar. It's the same Player 2 controller. It's the Sega Genesis with the exact same little turbo nipple on the joystick. But one thing I like about this, though, is that the buttons are actually of a nicer quality. I never thought I'd say that. But the letters are actually, like, engraved into the buttons. The B is upside down or backwards, or something's wrong with it, but, I mean, there's that. Also, if we flip it over on the back, there appears to have been something here for a slow motion option, and that is just not molded into the plastic at all. I think whatever mold this was stolen from would have had a switch on the back of the controller for right here. So maybe there was a Sega Genesis controller model that had that option back there, like an aftermarket one. I have no idea. I've opened up this controller before, and there's nothing on the board that would imply that anything was meant to go here. So that's just some remnants of whatever mold that was stolen from. You've got your crappy video cable, one audio channel. You have the AC adapter, which this one doesn't rattle when I shake it, but you know, considering the well, here, indoor use only. That is all one word for branding purposes. That's 3 words as all one word. That's a first. And then what is this one also came with a gun. The exact same gun, except you might notice this one doesn't have the tip. So if you pull this one out at a 7-Eleven, you better hope that the cashier doesn't have something of their own behind the counter, because you'll get toasted. I want to point out though, since I've shown off 2 of these crappy little guns, that whatever this is, this appears to be a really popular mold for light guns. Because unrelated to both of these things, I actually happen to have another gun. This one has yellowed considerably. It used to be white. It's actually an uglier yellow than this thing over here. But this went with one of those bootleg Nintendo Wii things that came with a bunch of stolen NES games. And if you look, I mean, it's almost the same exact mold. These little dots right here are not quite the same. These little lines are also a little bit different. There's not a screw hole right down here. But by and large, I mean, you could tell this was adapted from the same mold. So, I got a lot of guns. I got a lot of firepower. I can dual wield. It's like Wanted, like whew, like that, and then I'll end up shooting the refrigerator because you can't curve bullets. It's a fucking movie. This is the original model. This is, I think we bought this. We must have gotten this back in like 2002 or 2003 or something like that. So, not much has changed appearance-wise, but content-wise, we're gonna get into both of these tonight, and I'll kind of show y'all some of the differences. So. We'll start plugging those in. Also, I'm not going to use these. I have my own. I brought my own audio video cables because these are nowhere near long enough to be useful for me. So I'll just say getting tonight's stream to work with my own cables was a fucking nightmare because whatever resolution that this thing outputs in, my capture device preview software doesn't like it, and it will not pass through. It will not work as a pass through because it's like there's no input here. But it still sees the input because OBS can use it. So I've had to like plug this into a splitter and then plug one end into the television and then the other end into another audio splitter to flatten out the mono sound to make it fake stereo and plug that into the capture card. Basically, it took an act of God for me to be able to play this godforsaken Famicom bootleg piece of crap. So that's what we got. Let's hope I don't get swatted tonight. If I get swatted, I'm packing heat. What do you know about this? Before I do that, I know you guys are dying to see my Famicom collection, so let me show you the games that I own for Famicom, which I'll use these to test. I think if you turn one of these on with a Famicom game inserted, it'll just read the Famicom cartridge, because many of these systems would come with their own, like, 201 cartridges. Some of them did, which you would plug into the back, and then you could play even more stolen games. So my Famicom collection consists of Nintendo's F1 Race, which was one of the few first-party games that did not get a black box release, because at the time, we had Mach Rider and Rad Racer, which were ostensibly better games. But this game is pirated so much, we might not even have to use the cartridge to test it. It's probably on one of these fucking things. So we got F1 Race. I've also got Bulletproof Software's version of Tetris, which is different from the one that was released in the United States. This one plays kind of crappy. I don't like it. I prefer I still think the Tengen version is the best one. So we got that. I've got Konami's Road Fighter, which again is probably not a cartridge we're going to have to test on this, because I guarantee one of these has Road Fighter on it. I've got a copy of Clu Clu Land, because it is much, much, much easier and affordable to obtain it for the Famicom than it is to get it for the NES. Clu Clu Land for the NES is about $100 loose. This is about $2. So, big difference there. Skips tips. I've also got a copy of City Connection, because I hate myself. I've also got a copy of Mylon's Shitty Asshole, because I hate myself. I've also got a copy of this Mahjong game, because I figured, why the hell not? I mean, none of these made it to North America, so I might as well pick up a Mahjong game. Just to have. I don't know how to play it, but I have it. And then finally, last but not least, I have Astro Robo Sasa. Mostly because I've played this game before, and I think this also is on one of these bootleg things, so again, we might not have to actually play it, use it to test with. So that's my meager Famicom collection, but we will test things out with that accordingly. So, hey, thanks for checking out GatorBox on YouTube. We really appreciate it. If you like what you saw and you want to kick around with us live, follow us on Twitch, because we do this several times during the week. And if you want to support this channel, you can do so by subscribing right here on YouTube, following or subscribing over on Twitch, or even making a pledge on Patreon. Your support over the years has been tremendous. Thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video right here on GatorBox.